Can you name one weakness that lions have? Well, to be honest, it's their intelligence. They don't do it all the time, but now and then, predators do very reckless things. Today, you'll learn that snakes, it turns out, underestimate the sharpness of the horns, snow leopards suddenly discover gravity exists, and lions are stubborn enough to get stuck in a buffalo's... well, you know what I mean. Let's get it on! Meet the hornbill, a bird easily recognizable by its distinctive bill. These birds have a diverse diet, feasting on fruits, insects, and even small animals. That's what makes them omnivorous. There's a reason I said smaller animals, and here's why. Let me show you what happens when a hornbill attempts to snack on a snake. This prey is too long for the bird to swallow in one go. When a hornbill tries to eat a snake, it doesn't usually nibble or peck at it in small pieces. The bird isn't built for that. And nature didn't expect it to suddenly develop such skills. These birds typically gulp down their prey whole, and nature definitely didn't predict that the hornbill would be so, hungry? Overconfident? Actually, I have to say that not all birds are equally prepared to take down a snake. Smaller species such as sparrows and warblers usually avoid snakes altogether. Others eat snakes from time to time. And yes, the snake in the video is already dead, but still fighting back. The bird almost suffocated trying to swallow it. Good thing it was able to regurgitate the snake and then started pecking at it. Good thinking. There's a saying, curiosity killed the cat, but in this case it wasn't really curiosity, more like a desire to eat whatever's nearby. Kind of like fast food. So there was a troop of baboons hanging out on a road somewhere in the middle of South Africa. Quite a big one, about 50 of them, and there was a leopard heading that way. He strolled along the side of the road, but then hid in the grass and went into hunting mode. Usually, leopards don't attack baboons, but this one apparently decided to try its luck. It wasn't a good idea to attack a member of a large troop, and not just any troop, but a troop of baboons. Baboons are actually quite formidable opponents, as they live in groups and are always ready to fiercely defend one another. The leopard was exceptionally lucky to break free and escape because facing so many baboons with their sharp teeth could have resulted in a gruesome end for the predator. And since baboons are omnivores, they might have even considered having the unlucky leopard for dinner, all without batting an eye. Why waste good stuff, right? What's really fascinating is that the very next day, that not-so-bright leopard decided to take on a porcupine. We've talked about this in our videos before, but let me repeat that porcupines are the last meal a predator should go for, especially if it's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Porcupines know they're packing about 30,000 quills. Those are like tough, prickly hairs with serrated edges. When a porcupine senses danger, it raises its quills, and some of them even point backward towards the threat. If a predator dares to attack, those quills get embedded right into its skin, and they don't just poke, they stick around, easily coming off the porcupine. Pulling them out isn't easy because of those little saw-like edges. Usually the predator gets the message after just one try. They picked the wrong target. That's why porcupines don't back down. And when it comes to facing a leopard, they pretty much don't care. Our leopard hasn't learned a thing from its unfortunate encounters. Looks like it's bored out of its mind as it continually targets the worst prey imaginable. People in the comments even suggest that when this male attended leopard school, he clearly skipped the survival lessons. I think he should have taken a natural selection class or something. Porcupine quills can be up to 12 inches long. They're sharp, and as I said, a single porcupine can have thousands of them. It's very, very painful to remove them. And as you can see, they can penetrate really deep into the tissues of a careless predator. Porcupines also have a bonus from nature. Although their quills are easily detached from the porcupine itself, new ones grow really fast. So even if some very persistent predator, like our leopard, who's clearly full of brilliant ideas, would want to eat one particular porcupine, he wouldn't be able to strip it of all its quills, even at the cost of his paws. The silver lining for predators is that the idea of porcupines launching quills like projectiles from afar turns out to be nothing but a myth. Other than that, when it comes to self-defense, porcupines have outsmarted nearly everyone else. Even a python can't swallow a porcupine. And if it tries, it'll be the last thing it does, as you realize. And pythons are famous for their ability to swallow even the largest prey, but not a porcupine, and not an animal with horns. Yes, I think we found the python's weak spot, the horns. These sharp things stick out so far they can actually poke the snake from the inside while it's trying to have a snack. Initially, the python attempted to devour the duiker as it would with any other meal. However, it soon sensed that something was amiss. It struggled to break free from its prey, but by then the duiker's horns had already pierced its body. It took a while for the wriggling snake to find the right angle and break free. Unfortunately, it didn't help. The python died a little later from the wound. It just so happened that while it was trying to break free, it made things worse. It squirmed and twitched in a way that only made its wounds more severe. If the duiker could, it might gloat over the snake's misfortune. Why not? It would have every right to do so. Maybe some of our viewers are wondering if the python bit off more than it could chew with such a big meal. It happens. There are stories out there about pythons trying to eat something too hefty for their appetite. That's what happened to an alligator in Florida, although scientists there are still questioning what exactly happened. And with an antelope in India, a 20-foot python strangled and swallowed an adult antelope, but the prey was so large that the snake was almost unable to move after lunch. This is not an exaggeration. The python could barely move and was incredibly bloated. It tried to regurgitate the antelope, but couldn't, and soon died. Usually, the size of the prey isn't a problem at all. Snakes have a knack for regurgitating what turns out to be too big to eat when they realize it in the process. Sometimes snakes get rid of prey for other reasons. Another python in India spat out an antelope it had eaten because there were a lot of people around, scaring it and causing it stress. They also poked the prey with a stick. But for our not-too-bright python, the critical factor was the fact that the horns pierced it through and the prey simply got stuck. It wouldn't go in or out. If that hadn't happened, the python would have simply gotten rid of the large prey and crawled off to find something smaller, more manageable, and without pointy parts. This footage was taken during a visit to Kruger National Park in South Africa. A hungry lion cub somehow got stuck in the back of his parents' prey, and if lions went to school, this would be the type of thing that'd lead to relentless teasing until graduation day. The video shows the lion cub trying to pull his head out, but he can't do it, even though he's struggling with his paws and even flipping onto his back. At some point, apparently, the cub either runs out of breath or passes out, maybe from lack of oxygen. This would be really dangerous because hypoxia, that is a condition in which the tissues and organs don't receive the right amount of oxygen, can lead to irreversible changes. But the other members of the pride seem to pay no attention to what's happening, although I doubt that they don't see the stuck lion cub. Nevertheless, the lionesses act as if they told the young lion several times not to get inside the buffalo's ass, but the little cub went ahead and did that anyway. It's become a sort of parenting moment, though I think it might be a bit overboard. However, when people arrived the next day, the lion cub was not there. It seems that he was lucky and managed to escape, or one of the lionesses came to help him. The lion cub hit the jackpot twice. Firstly, he was not left trapped, and secondly, there were no hyenas around, because hyenas often kill cubs or old lions and then eat them. No, hyenas wouldn't do something like that on purpose, following the pride, trying to get one lion to stray away from the others. That's not what hyenas do. But if a whole clan of hyenas come across a lone lion without a pride, they will try to kill and eat it. Naturally, lion cubs are also on the menu, although it's believed that hyenas hunt cubs not as a food source, but to destroy future rivals. In general, lions can run into occasional issues due to their reputation for not being the sharpest tools in the shed. For example, a group of 5 lions were seen attacking an African buffalo in the Mala Mala Game Reserve in South Africa. It seems like a common situation, but the lions were young and spent an hour and a half taking down the animal. They scratched it, bit it, and tried to coordinate their assault like real adult hunters. But one of the lions made the mistake of attacking from the front, right where the sharp horns are. Horns that pose a deadly threat to almost any animal that bumps into them. It's worth noting that lions aren't exactly the most skilled hunters out there. They can catch their prey, get food, make little lion cubs, and keep on living. One reason for their less than stellar hunting success is that they don't pay much attention to which way the wind is blowing when they hunt. They often approach their target from upwind, which tips off the prey. In other words, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. Plus, if the prey fights back, lions usually don't chase it down. When they catch smaller prey, they like to swipe at its legs or back to knock it off balance or onto the ground. Then a bite to the neck or throat finishes the job swiftly. When lions take on larger prey like buffalo, they typically approach from an angle, leap onto the animal, and use their weight to bring it down. During this tussle, they aim to bite the spine to incapacitate their target. You get it right, they attack from the rear, and this lion, it made a big mistake. According to eyewitnesses, this lion hung onto a buffalo's horn for about 20 minutes. Surprisingly, the buffalo eventually lost, and the lions got their meal. As for the lion who didn't quite grasp the art of hunting, it limped around for a few more days but seemed to recover quite well. It probably even survived. But whether it learned not to repeat its mistake, well, that's anyone's guess. In the end, things worked out. What about the lion who woke its female up at a very bad time? Imagine your girlfriend's dozing off peacefully on the couch after a hard day, and you suddenly decide to playfully bite her. Chances are, you'll end up like this lion. And the girlfriend won't even feel guilty. Just like the lioness, I don't see any remorse on her face at all. Though, of course, her reaction is not at all anger in response to her sleep being interrupted. Things work differently in the wild. When an animal faces a threat, the response is to fight or flight, as everyone knows. The lioness wakes up abruptly, not really understanding what's happening and who's biting her. It's hard to understand anything when you're awake. But the response is already activated, and the instinct of self-preservation ordered her to fight because lions are predators and are not inclined to run away at the sight of danger. And since this is a lioness with sharp claws and teeth, scaring her can cost a lion very dearly. He could potentially even lose his eyes or get other serious injuries. By the way, notice that the male didn't even try to fight back or hit back, he just backed away, trying to get away from the claws. And only then, when the lioness had already laid down, he began to growl indignantly. Perhaps in lion's language, it meant something like, "Hey, come on, what's wrong with you?" There are cats that gracefully climb trees, eat on the branches, and even sleep there. And then there are, lions. Actually, lions can climb trees, at least they try very hard, and sometimes they even manage not to fall. But let's be honest, lions aren't very good at this kind of thing because their bodies are designed to chase and pile up on heavy prey. So they had to sacrifice grace. Lions can accelerate up to 50 miles per hour, which secures them a place among the fastest land animals in Africa. But even here, there are nuances. Lions can run really fast, just not for very long. They are sprinters, not marathon runners. Usually it's 100 feet, after which the lion must attack its prey. Otherwise, a lot of energy spent on this sprint will be wasted. What about climbing? Lions can climb only certain trees with well-placed branches. If the tree's not the right one, there is a high risk of falling. By the way, scientists believe that lions climb trees as a behavioral adaptation. This is how they protect themselves from insect bites that annoy big cats while they chill during daylight hours under trees. Some animal behaviorists claim that lions have perfected the art of tree climbing to escape the debilitating heat at ground level. That way they can enjoy a cool breeze and a blissful sleep without worrying about what's going on below. Unless they fall, of course. Well, sometimes for lions, it's an escape from their own food. And while lions can be unexpectedly ridiculous, roosters can be aggressive. In any case, the prey's behavior clearly caught this falcon off guard. All the falcon really wanted was to enjoy its lunch. Well, in fact, anyone who's ever encountered roosters in the countryside knows how territorial they are. Moreover, these seemingly domestic birds are ready to defend their territory with a fury that even some dogs could not dream of. Roosters are most often not dangerous to humans, but any threat, even a theoretical one, puts them into immediate attack mode. Why attack? Because it's hard to call it just defense. Another reason why roosters attack people is human unpredictability. This is especially true for children, as their sudden movements can be perceived as a threat. In addition, an overly enthusiastic child grabbing a chick or young hen can also provoke a rooster. They may fight for themselves, their chickens, and their, well, land, you might say. The rooster has everything to give a small bird of prey a good thrashing, if not emerge victorious: beak, claws, and fury. And then, of course, there are the spurs, which are a part of the leg bones, making them exceptionally strong and sharp. Mantises are the apex predators of the insect world and can kill almost any prey. Their menu includes moths, beetles, crickets, spiders, flies, and of course, wasps. But what's definitely not there are hornets. Perhaps the mantis mistook its prey for a wasp because I don't think it assessed the odds and decided to take a chance. It's more likely that the hunt was purely instinctive, and it ended sadly. But it's not that the hornet is too big for a mantis, it's just that it's a hornet, a ruthless killer. Although it's actually known that mantises can even feed on prey 3 times larger than themselves, including small animals like frogs, lizards, and hummingbirds. Yes, an insect that can eat birds. Very small birds, but birds nonetheless. Moreover, a particularly large species of praying mantis was introduced to North America from China in 1896. These insects grow up to 4 inches, sometimes even larger, and are smart enough to climb onto hummingbird feeders and catch birds there. Well, or those mantises are also confused. They just have better luck than the headless one. There are 2 styles of martial arts created to mimic the movements of the Chinese mantis, and they were invented back in the 17th century. I wonder if they invented the hornet style, which one would win? Nature has equipped snow leopards with some nifty skills for scaling rocky terrain. Still, they can't quite match mountain goats, the nimble creatures they usually chase up to dizzying heights. This snow leopard picked a pretty steep cliff for his travels, probably inspired by watching goats do it. Turns out it's not really their forte. Goats have these special hooves that help them. Fortunately, even after falling from such a huge height, the snow leopard survived and didn't even seem to be injured. In any case, he walks away on all 4 legs and doesn't limp. The absence of working clavicles, flexible spinal column, and powerful hind legs, not to mention the small weight, allow these felines not only to jump long distances, but also to fall like this. Fall and survive. In addition, like many felines, snow leopards are able to turn their body in the air so that they land on their paws and avoid injuries. It's unclear exactly how the leopard from the video landed, but he's fine, which means evolutionary perks were stronger than really bad ideas. The buffalo got stuck in the mud, and his herd, realizing that the poor guy wouldn't get out, had to leave. And then came the predators. Now imagine their thoughts. On the one hand, a buffalo that can't move is easy prey. On the other hand, trying to kill it is dangerous, as they might get stuck too, and that's certain death. In the end, on the 3rd day, the lions chose the second option. It's up to you to decide how good this idea was. Anyway, this time the lions seemed to be lucky. The mud had time to solidify, so they didn't fall through, didn't get stuck, and were able to enjoy an easy meal. In the best case scenario, things would look like that. As for the worst case, in fact, these worst case scenarios happened in the world reigned by the dinosaurs. Imagine stumbling upon multiple findings spread across different corners of the world, from Montana to Mongolia. Each time, scientists find the remains of 2 dinosaurs locked in what seems like a life and death struggle. One might have been the predator, while the other fought fiercely for survival. Their showdown ultimately led them into a watery swamp where they met their demise. The reasons behind their deaths could vary, either fatal wounds inflicted during their struggle, or perhaps a catastrophic event like a rock slide which killed both dinosaurs at the same time. What's important is the fact that these ancient creatures were buried side by side and remarkably well preserved, much to the joy of archaeologists. The snake in the video is a venomous boomslang, which usually feeds on small animals but also eats eggs. Judging by how chubby and contented it is, the snake just ate a couple of eggs, which made it slow and clumsy. And it looks like it picked a bad time to eat lunch. The bird likely realized there were missing eggs in its nest, saw the snake nearby, and decided it had the right to be outraged, or maybe even take revenge. And while the bird couldn't kill the snake, because it's a bush shrike that doesn't eat snakes, it did something worse. It pecked out its eyes. Whether the snake could survive this injury is a mystery. On the one hand, they don't rely on their eyesight to hunt, which means it doesn't need the eyes that much. But since snakes still haven't lost their eyes in the course of the evolution, they have to serve some purpose, so the life of this boomslang is clearly going to get more difficult. In general, the behavior is very bush shrike-like, very cruel. Male shrikes have a quirky habit of snaring insects and small critters, then skewering them on thorns, branches, or even sharp wire fence spikes. These makeshift storage spots serve as their future snacks and double up as territorial markers. Yep, they mark it using dead animals, so pecking out snake's eyes is something you'd expect from shrikes. This centipede packs a venomous bite, and unfortunately for the mouse, it's already become a victim of its toxins. Mice are a regular part of these centipedes' diets, but when it comes to tangling with a grasshopper mouse, predators should think twice. Surprisingly, these cute little creatures don't run away, they stand their ground and go on the offensive, repeatedly sinking their teeth into the centipede until it's down for the count. If the centipede had any feelings, it would probably be taken aback and wish it had studied biology. Grasshopper mice have a knack for dealing with venomous animals, from scorpions to centipedes. They're tough, nimble, and have evolved to be immune to venom, enabling them to take on scorpions, centipedes, and even tarantulas for a meal. In comparison, other small rodents, snakes, and lizards on the menu seem like easy pickings. Polar bears are considered formidable hunters who are so strong that they can attack the walruses head-on. Large polar bears, both males and females, are the best hunters. Young polar bears are less successful and therefore hesitate to take on walruses. For a good reason. The bear in our video made 5 to 6 attempts to attack, all without success. Can you imagine how much energy he wasted? And the walruses look as if they want to say, "Oh, leave us alone. We don't have time for you now." That's embarrassing. And it's not just that this young predator hasn't had time to get enough experience, it's just that adult bears have much more strength and weight necessary to successfully kill walruses. And even that's sometimes not enough. That's why bears have learned to use rocks and ice when hunting walruses. It rarely happens, but sometimes these predators drop heavy objects on their prey from some cliff to kill them, because it's kinda hard to bite through the walrus's skin. Trapped twice. In the town of Espanola, New Mexico, rescuers found a rattlesnake that had swallowed a mouse along with a mousetrap. Yes, you heard right. I don't know why it did it. It was probably just really hungry, and if you're a snake, you don't have hands to get food out of a trap. When the poor snake was brought to the vet, it had a rectangular wooden mousetrap sticking out of its body, measuring 4 inches by 2 inches. Interestingly, rattlesnakes have flexible jaws that let them eat things bigger than their heads, which usually works out well for them. Well, because they don't eat mousetraps. Saving the snake required surgery, which thankfully went smoothly. We can't say for sure how long the snake had the mousetrap in its belly, but seeing that the mouse inside wasn't fully digested, it couldn't have been too long, and that's a good thing. Baboon versus pride. Unlike the leopard, the lion is much more successful at hunting baboons. This big cat can even handle a large individual. However, as you may recall, baboons are smarter. Being smarter than lions is not very difficult, and so baboons have developed a very unusual way of fighting back. Scientists have found that first the baboon simply throws branches and leaves at the lion, hiding above, and then apparently, having angered the predator enough, begins to urinate on it. This chemical weapon works surprisingly well. Young lions immediately decide to look for food elsewhere, although usually baboons are considered easy prey for them. Explosive dinner. Remember why people are cautioned to keep away from stranded whales on the beach? Well, it's because these huge creatures can unexpectedly burst open due to gases accumulating inside during the decomposition process. Surprisingly, the same can happen to a hippo. However, lions have no idea they should steer clear of a carcass like that. It looks like the hippo's following the baboon strategy, but has slightly changed their trajectory. Too much effort. A hungry leopard dived into a lake to catch a fish, and nothing promised any trouble, except that he came out of there completely covered in mud. The poor predator didn't look much like himself at all, and judging by the look in his eyes, he wasn't thrilled with what was happening at all. But that's not the worst of it. The witness says that the mud was so liquid and the lake was so deep that the leopard could hardly get out of there. I mean, he could have gotten stuck there for good like a poor buffalo. And all because of some small fish. Don't mess with a honey badger. Painted wolves live in burrows, and they're too small and fragile to fight a honey badger. Seriously, look at those paws. And yet they still need to keep this fearsome predator away from the pack and, more importantly, the pups. In this video, the painted wolves didn't monitor the situation, let the most dangerous animal get too close, and ended up barely managing to save the pups. By some miracle, they weren't injured.
Surviving a close encounter with a honey badger's sharp claws and teeth, these guys have used up all their good luck for the next 3 years.
See you later.